What happens when a lighthearted daytime talk show suddenly turns into one of the most uncomfortable moments in television history? Noah Schnapp, the Stranger Things star loved by millions around the world, sat down with Kelly Clarkson expecting nothing more than a standard promotional interview. Instead, viewers witnessed a tense clash so shocking that it reportedly ended with Noah removing his microphone and walking off set, leaving Kelly momentarily speechless and the studio frozen in stunned silence. This wasn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. It was a moment that highlighted what can happen when two very different perspectives collide on live television and neither side is willing to step back. The interview began exactly the way audiences expect from the Kelly Clarkson Show. Kelly welcomed Noah warmly, praising him for joining the show and immediately easing into familiar territory by talking about Stranger Things. She asked about the upcoming final season, his experience playing Will Byers, and what it's been like growing up in the spotlight on one of the biggest television series of all time. Noah responded comfortably, sharing thoughtful answers, behind-the-scenes stories, and genuine gratitude for the role that changed his life. The audience laughed, applauded, and everything felt relaxed, entertaining, and perfectly on brand for daytime television. Noah, just 20 years old, carried himself with the confidence of someone who has spent most of his life in front of cameras. He smiled, waved to the cheering crowd, and settled into his chair with ease. The conversation flowed naturally, and for the first part of the interview, there was nothing to suggest that things were about to take a sharp turn. It was light, engaging, and focused on a project millions of viewers cared deeply about. Then Kelly shifted the conversation. Known for occasionally moving beyond safe, pre-approved questions, she steered the interview towards something more personal. She brought up Noah's social media presence and noted how outspoken he has been about political issues and current events over the past few years. At first, it sounded like a familiar discussion, young celebrities using their platforms to speak about causes they believe in, something often framed positively in the media. However, her tone subtly changed. Kelly leaned forward, her expression more serious, and mentioned the controversy surrounding some of Noah's posts. She pointed out that while many people support him, others feel his comments have been insensitive or lacking an understanding of the complexity of the issues he's addressed. She explained that she wanted to give him a chance to clarify his views and help the audience understand his perspective. The shift was immediate. Noah's relaxed posture stiffened, his jaw tightened, and the easy smile he had worn throughout the interview vanished. He sat up straighter, clearly weighing his response as the room grew quiet. The audience, once lively and responsive, fell into near silence, sensing that the interview had crossed into far more uncomfortable territory. In that moment, it was clear that what started as a routine daytime appearance had transformed into something far more tense, leaving everyone watching unsure of what would happen next. Noah took a slow breath before responding, saying that he appreciated Kelly's desire to have a real conversation, but that the way she framed the question felt rooted in assumptions he didn't agree with. He explained that labeling his posts as controversial was not how he saw them, and that much of the criticism he receives comes from people who misunderstand his intentions or are unwilling to consider perspectives different from their own. His words were measured, but there was a sharp edge in his tone that made it clear he was uncomfortable with the direction the discussion was taking. Kelly replied calmly, insisting that she wasn't trying to attack him or mischaracterize his views. She said she was simply acknowledging that his posts have sparked significant public discussion and that many people, including some of his own fans, have expressed concern about what he has shared online. She added that having such a large platform, especially one that reaches young people, comes with a responsibility to be thoughtful about the messages being sent. Her tone suggested she believed she was being fair, offering him space to clarify rather than criticizing him outright. Noah clearly disagreed. He said that he is always thoughtful about what he posts and that disagreement does not automatically mean irresponsibility. He pointed out that Kelly herself holds opinions not everyone agrees with and argued that having a platform shouldn't require staying silent on issues that matter simply to avoid making people uncomfortable. He added that the expectation for young people to be extra careful with their opinions felt condescending, as if his age meant he hadn't fully thought things through, asterisk by this point. The tension in the studio was unmistakable. The conversation had shifted from a friendly exchange into a full-blown debate, and neither side seemed willing to give ground. Kelly maintained her composure, but her surprise at Noah's bluntness was evident. Accustomed to guiding the tone of her interviews, she appeared unsettled as the discussion moved further beyond her control, trying to reframe the moment. Kelly clarified that she wasn't suggesting Noah remain silent, only that he consider the impact of his words. She cited specific examples, referencing posts where he had spoken about international conflicts and social issues. She explained that some viewers interpreted those posts as one-sided or lacking nuance, and that people directly affected by those issues had expressed hurt and frustration. She asked whether he could understand why others might feel that way. Asterisk, Noah responded immediately and firmly. He said he absolutely understands that people have different perspectives, but that doesn't make his own perspective invalid or something he should apologize for. He emphasized that the issues being discussed are deeply complex and that no single social media post can capture every dimension of them. He explained that he shares his views based on the information available to him and the values he holds. And while he is constantly learning and evolving, he refuses to pretend neutrality on matters he cares deeply about simply to avoid backlash. Kelly pressed further, saying the issue wasn't neutrality but empathy. She stressed that words carry power and pointed out that some of the communities critical of Noah's posts are historically marginalized, groups whose concerns deserve serious consideration. She argued that listening to criticism and reflecting on it is part of growth, and that dismissing people's pain as mere disagreement risks missing the larger point. That was when the exchange truly escalated. Noah said he has listened to criticism and engaged in good faith discussions with those who disagree with him. But what was happening now felt less like a conversation and more like an interrogation. He stated that he was invited onto the show to talk about Stranger Things, yet now found himself being put on trial for his personal beliefs on live television. He said it felt like a setup and added that if his social media activity was going to be the focus, that intention should have been made clear before he agreed to appear. Asterisk, Kelly's expression hardened. She responded that everything discussed on her show is fair game and that Noah is a public figure who has chosen to speak openly about sensitive and divisive topics. She said that using a platform in that way means being prepared to defend those views and engage with people who see the world differently. According to her, that willingness to engage is what accountability looks like, and refusing to do so is part of the problem. Noah shook his head in frustration, saying there is a clear difference between accountability and ambush and that this unmistakably felt like the latter. He told Kelly that she was framing the entire conversation as if he were already in the wrong, and that no matter how he answered, his words would be used as proof that he was insensitive or uninformed. He said he came onto the show in good faith and that this was never the discussion he agreed to have. By now, the audience had fallen completely silent. Some faces showed clear discomfort, while others were glued to the exchange, realizing they were witnessing something far removed from a typical daytime talk show moment. Asterisk, Kelly appeared to pause, weighing her next move. She could have redirected the conversation and salvaged the remainder of the interview, but instead she leaned back and addressed his concern directly. She said she understood why he felt blindsided, but added that this comes with being in the public eye. According to her, when someone shares opinions with millions of people, they have to be willing to discuss them in settings that aren't always comfortable. She emphasized that her show is meant to be a place for real conversations, even when those conversations are difficult, and insisted she wasn't attacking him but offering him a chance to explain himself to people who might not understand his point of view. Noah let out a short laugh that carried no humor, only frustration. He said framing the exchange as an opportunity felt manipulative because the entire setup assumed he owed the public an explanation or an apology. He pointed out that Kelly kept using words like accountability and responsibility, But what it really sounded like she wanted was for him to admit he was wrong and say whatever would quiet the criticism. He made it clear he wasn't willing to do that, because he didn't believe he had done anything wrong in the first place. Kelly's tone sharpened as she responded. She said that refusing to even consider the possibility of having hurt people is exactly the kind of mindset that allows harm to continue. She argued that it's possible to have good intentions and still cause pain, and that being a mature, thoughtful person means acknowledging that reality and being open to doing better. From her perspective, Noah seemed more focused on defending himself than on truly listening to those who felt affected by his words. Noah's expression hardened. He said Kelly was making sweeping assumptions about what he had and hadn't listened to, and that just because he wasn't responding in the way she expected didn't mean he hadn't reflected deeply on these issues. He added that the hurt she kept referencing wasn't universal, pointing out that many people share his perspective and feel just as strongly about the same issues. Treating one group's feelings as automatically outweighing his right to express his beliefs, he argued, wasn't fairness, it was silencing. Kelly cut in, saying no one was trying to silence him, and that claiming to be silenced while speaking on a national television show with a massive audience wasn't a convincing argument. She said people weren't demanding his silence, but asking for thoughtfulness and humility. To her, his defensiveness made it seem like being right mattered more to him than considering the real world impact of his words. Noah's face flushed as he pushed back. He said Kelly was doing exactly what he had accused her of, twisting his words to make him look bad. He clarified that he never claimed to be silenced in an absolute sense, but that there was clear pressure for him to either change his views or stop expressing them publicly. Being challenged, he said, is one thing, but being told that your beliefs are inherently harmful unless they're framed to appease everyone is something else entirely. 1/4. 4:37 p.m. Hacker. Kelly responded that free expression doesn't mean freedom from consequences. She said Noah was entitled to his opinions, but others were equally entitled to criticize them and hold him accountable. If that was something he struggled with, she added bluntly, then maybe he should reconsider how he uses his platform. The directness of her words seemed to surprise even her, and the audience stirred uneasily. Realizing this had gone far beyond a normal interview disagreement, Noah stared at her before replying in a low, controlled voice, anger clearly beneath the surface. He said, suggesting he step back from using his platform because he wouldn't align with a specific narrative, was exactly how real dialogue gets shut down. Kelly, he argued, talked about wanting honest conversations, but what she actually wanted was agreement or an apology. Kelly pushed back, saying she had productive conversations with people who disagreed with her all the time, and that the difference was openness. To her, Noah's defensiveness made genuine engagement impossible. Noah insisted he had learned and grown over the years, but growth didn't mean abandoning his principles every time someone disagreed. Some criticism, he admitted, had made him more thoughtful, but much of it was bad faith outrage aimed at discrediting him. Kelly countered that he kept avoiding the substance of people's concerns, falling back on free speech arguments instead of addressing why his words hurt others. Noah replied that he had addressed those concerns, but Kelly dismissed his answers simply because they weren't the ones she wanted. The exchange grew sharper. Kelly said his posts on international and social issues were criticized for being reductive and lacking empathy, and that his response had been to double down rather than listen. Noah said he disagreed with that characterization and argued there is no single narrative everyone is required to follow. Kelly maintained that the issue wasn't having opinions, but how they're expressed and whether someone is willing to admit they might be missing something. To her, Noah's refusal to do so showed a lack of self-awareness. Noah said he could admit when he was wrong, but he wasn't wrong here. He explained that while he was sorry people felt hurt, he wasn't sorry for expressing his views. Kelly reacted with disbelief, saying that wasn't an apology but a dismissal. Noah replied that he was being honest, not performative, and that apologizing for something he didn't regret would compromise his integrity. Kelly shot back that integrity didn't mean never being wrong, and that what he called integrity looked a lot like stubbornness. At that point, Noah stood up and calmly began unhooking his microphone. The studio froze. He told Kelly that this was never going to be a real dialogue because she had already decided who he was before he sat down. Kelly insisted it wasn't an ambush and said that if he wanted to be taken seriously, he needed to defend his views rather than walk away. Noah replied that there's a difference between being challenged and being set up, and that this felt like a performance, not a conversation. Kelly argued that his reaction showed an unwillingness to be accountable. Noah answered that this wasn't accountability but prosecution, with no answer ever going to be enough unless he renounced his beliefs. As voices rose, both stood their ground. Kelly accused him of ignoring harm, while Noah said she was using the language of harm to silence viewpoints she disliked. Neither moved, neither softened. Finally, Noah placed the microphone down and said he would rather be honest and criticized than dishonest, and applauded. He turned and walked off the stage without another word. The audience sat in stunned silence before a few uncertain claps quickly faded. Kelly stood alone, visibly shaken, and announced a break as the cameras cut away. What unfolded wasn't just an interview gone wrong, but a collision between two immovable perspectives. Noah walked off believing he was ambushed and misrepresented, while Kelly believed his refusal to concede proved her point. The moment left viewers questioning where accountability ends, where dialogue breaks down, and whether real conversation is possible once both sides are convinced the other is already wrong.